Welcome students to Point SAG. Before we start this assignment, let me see how prepared you are for this project. Today's assignment will focus attention on protected areas in the OECS with particular focus on the OPAL project. OPAL, O-P-A-A-L, stands for OECS Protected Areas and Associated Livelihoods. Let's see if our students can identify the islands where those sites are located. Where will you find the Grenada and the Annandale Forest Reserve?
I know this. The Annandale Forest borders the Grenada Forest, which contains the Grenada Lake. This area contains some of the most ecologically diverse habitats on that island. This area is the major source for the island's water supply. The island in question is Grenada.
This is correct. Our next site is in a place called Portsmouth. In which country will you find the CABRITS National Park?
We're talking about the CABRITS National Park. It comprises both land and sea. The marine component makes up 70% of the park. There is a dry forest, a freshwater swamp, and the 18th century Prince Rupert's garrison overlooking the town of Portsmouth. Portsmouth, of course, is located in the island of Dominica.
So far, so good. The next OPAL protected area is a body of ocean which comprises about a small group of islands, about 28 of them. They form part of the Northeast Marine Management Area, or NEMA. In which island will you find NEMA?
Okay, we're talking about some of the most beautiful islands you could ever imagine. There, you will find very dense patches of mangroves, perfect areas for kayaking or swim with the stingrays. The island I am thinking of is Antigua and Barbuda.
That's correct. Now we move to the south of the Eastern Caribbean. Again, we're talking about a body of ocean which comprises a group of small islands.
This is easy. Scenes from Pirates of the Caribbean were shot there. 5 of the islands are uninhabited, but they make a perfect location for picnics. The islands are protected by the Horseshoe Reef which surrounds them. The Tobago Keys form part of St. Vincent and the Grenadines.
Correct. We move on. The next OPAL protected area is called the Central Forest Reserve.
The Central Forest Reserve comprises all land over 1,000 feet on this island. It is home to a remarkable 926 plant species. This area is rich in floral biodiversity and is critical as protection for vital water resources. I'm thinking it's the Central Forest Reserve of St. Kitts and Nevis.
This is correct. The final OPAL protected area in this pop quiz is located right here.
It comprises the Sandy Beach, the Savans Bay and Makoti mangroves, both marine reserves and the Maria Island Nature Reserve. Maria Island Nature Reserve is located off the southeast coast of St. Lucia.
Two groups of students will be conducting the research assignment. One is already at work at the SOUFRIERE Marine Management Area in St. Lucia, and the other is based at Vieux-Fort, St. Lucia. As students embark on their research project, they will see for themselves the importance of protected areas and the different ways in which neighboring communities benefit from the protection of these resources. All the islands of the OECS have used their abundant natural resources and natural beauty for their economic benefit. Communities located within or on the verges of protected areas are well placed to profit from a range of economic activities. As our research students will find out, a healthy environment and accessible natural sites make it easy for tourism to flourish and consequently generate income for nearby communities.
What you are doing is turning the bead. I'll tell you the history on that when we get inside.
Good afternoon, Mr. Tulsi.
Hi, how are you?
I'm Yandra. These are my fellow colleagues. Firstly, we would like to know what are protected areas and why do we need them?
There are two main types of protected areas in the Eastern Caribbean generally. There are historic areas, places of historic interest, and you have natural protected areas, mainly landscape and seascape, which have something of interest. Protected areas are important because they represent some unique feature which may be in danger or which is worthy of protection. And we really need to keep these special places because as development progresses, if you lose these special places, you lose the character of your country. You also lose the opportunities and for recreation and livelihoods that protected areas offer the citizens, the people who live in and around them.
What kind of activities generally take place in protected areas?
And that depends on the nature of the protected areas. If it's a marine protected area, of course, you will have fishing and sea-based activities. Lots of protected areas in the Caribbean are also close to the sea, so you will have beaches, you have some land-based protected areas, special mountains and hills. So it is really a function of the type of protected area you're talking about. Generally, they offer recreational opportunities and livelihood opportunities.
Some of the offshore islands situated in protected areas in the OECS are a huge draw for yachts, boat tours, snorkeling, kayaking, and in some cases as educational tours, as our research students have found out. For the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States, they bring economic benefits to the people of the OECS.
Hi, I'm Greg of Greg's Safaris on St. Kitts. Welcome to our beautiful island home. For me, the Central Forest Reserve is very important. It's where I make a living, taking people on interpretive hikes into this beautiful, pristine wilderness. To protect it is very important for me. The bamboo you see here is very useful. Not only does it prevent the erosion in these areas here, but it also is used to make fencing, used to make arbors for growing crops. It's also a good windbreak, essentially, in these hill farmer areas. So it's an excellent thing to maintain and to try and protect.
The Annandale Forest Reserve is critical to the water supply of Grenada, especially the major population centers. The water sources are needed for irrigating farms and for the development of horticulture.
That's the way I make my living. Singing every day, I'll put the hat on the ground, and something small you'll pay. Now my country is nice, I want you to know, and you are the visitors to make us happy. Put something then go.
The Annandale Forest is also a source of economic activity. The water feeds waterfalls that attract thousands of visitors annually. There are opportunities for the development of nature trails and interpretation centers, where a variety of arts and crafts produced by local artisans are on sale. The Annandale Forest Reserve is among the most ecologically diverse habitats on Grenada. It provides a sanctuary for wildlife including monkeys, opossum and armadillos.
Quite a number of people, particularly those in the surrounding communities, are dependent on a number of forest products like the bamboo, wood for furniture making. So the sawmillers, the furniture makers and the craft people that depend on tourism, they are benefited economically.
Thinking of agriculture as digging the land and planting something.
Our research students have learned that most protected areas in the OECS are located in or near communities. Many residents have been invited to assist in managing their development, particularly those that are in ecologically sensitive areas.
How do neighboring communities benefit from protected areas?
Oh, they do in several ways. If we take today and this beach, for example, you could see the number of families out here picnicking on the beach. People are kite surfing, so relaxation is an obvious benefit. In addition to that, there are the traditional uses of the biodiversity resources in the area. People have traditionally used medicinal plants from protected areas. They have used the forest products for a number of household and commercial purposes. Tours and activities are also done in protected areas, creating jobs for tour guides. You have bars and restaurants within and around protected areas that offer not only livelihood opportunities but also opportunities for recreation. The benefits are diverse. If you're talking about a forest area, then it is a source of water for neighboring communities. Historic protected areas offer cultural values. So it's a wide range of benefits, and it's all a function of what resources are there in the area.
The sustainable use of protected areas ensures food security, helps reduce poverty through job creation, and guarantees a reliable water supply. It has become clear to our research students that success of protected areas depends greatly on meaningful engagement with local communities. The residents must understand why there is a need for protected areas.
So when you say it's a protected area, what exactly do you mean by that?
Marine protected areas are areas set up to protect the natural biodiversity, marine resources, the fish, the coral reefs, and all the marine organisms which inhabit our waters.
So what measures are put in place to protect this area?
Well, we have a marine spatial plan for the area. The zones are demarcated, so it allows a separation of users and uses, so you don't get conflicts arising between the different groups. Before, we used to get conflicts between the yachts and the fishermen. The yachts were anchored in the area where they were trying to cast their nets. So because of the separation, you can now have all activities ongoing at the same time and revenue being generated from all these different sectors.
The CABRITS National Park was founded in 1986 and it covers an area of some 1,313 acres. Most of that is actually sea, it's marine. One of the main things in this area is community participation, of linking the people and getting them to understand all of the natural cycles and the ecological links that would make it better for them if, for instance, small fish were not shot by fish guns, and that the laying of fish pots in certain areas is not advisable because of the fact that you're taking a very small fish which haven't been allowed the time to develop. There are all of these ecological aspects that you need to educate traditional fishermen about, and then to make people understand and to guide them to understand that this area is really like a nursery for the fish that are going to be out in the open ocean.
At the Fisheries Department, we had a number of consultations, and we included a number of the hotels that are in the area, as well as some of the private residences, the tour operators, basically to get their feedback into the management planning process and how we could go about zoning the area. So for instance, you have an industrial zone. We have a core zone around the Bird Island and that area where you have the rachel snake and the nesting turtle. So we have like a conservation zone. And then we also have zones where there are other recreational activities would take place.
More recent history has been the use of protected areas for development. As long as that development is balanced and does not threaten the resources of the area, a number of tourism-related activities are emerging. You have visits to protected areas. Small hotels are being built in protected areas, but these have to be done in a way that will balance biodiversity conservation and development.
Obviously, if a tourist comes and they go snorkeling and they don't see fish, or at least an environment that's teeming with living species, then the encounter would not necessarily live up to the expectations, and they would not be tempted to come back, or at least tell us about the experience. And so it is very important from that perspective to have at least, you know, as pristine environment as possible.
I noticed that there are a lot of people living and working in the area, so I imagine that there would be a lot of negative impact coming from people themselves. So in what way is that a big challenge? Like, what's the biggest challenge you have in terms of people interfering?
Well, one of the biggest threats that protected areas face is land-based sources of pollution. And it's what you can see and what you cannot see. So solid waste, for instance, you can see. We have a visual example of the negative impacts of human population on the coastline, where we have a pig pen, as you can see, being constructed right on the beach, and the resulting sewage discharge from that pig pen, you can imagine, is going to cause some problems for the marine organisms living in the area. You would have increased nutrient inputs from the sewage from those pens, and it's also creating an eyesore for the area.
I see environmental education as the main challenge, the main way to really bring across the message and to get the people sensitized so they themselves wouldn't be looking for somebody to be policing over them. They would be their own police. And you know, by getting community involved, that is very key.
We are in the Granitang area. It is 3,816 acres. That's the Grand Etang Lake. Etang is like big pond. It's formed 12,000 years ago, was a crater. But today you're not allowed to swim in it anymore because it's the main source for drinking water. So without this, we're in trouble.
The threats to the preservation of biodiversity in the OECS are real. The ecosystems are extremely fragile and easily degradable from harmful practices. The big question facing the students on this study tour is, why do we need biodiversity? There is no doubt that a healthy environment leads to a healthy community and creates opportunities for economic activity.
What are the biodiversity values of protected areas?
First, we have to sort of step back and understand that over time, hundreds, even thousands of years, the landscape and the plants and animals in that landscape have come to establish a harmony. And they are able to coexist in a way that support their populations. As development takes place and you begin to reduce on the natural landscape, one needs to create these sanctuaries, these places where you are leaving enough of the landscape undeveloped. That is one of the key things about protected areas, that it must be big enough and diverse enough to ensure that those special plants and animals that have made their homes there over hundreds or thousands of years will not become extinct.
Here in St. Kitts, we have an area that has monkeys, mongoose, there's different kinds of butterflies, giant moths. We have lizards that can change colors before your eyes, green anoles, translucent ones called bronze anoles.
The forest is important for its role in social, economical and environmental benefits. So it is very crucial that we really keep the forest protected. But through the forest transpiration process, it creates a cooling effect. You have its role in soil and water conservation. You know, when people open the tap and the water flow, that is as a result of the forest. And it is important that people understand those concepts and the importance of the forest. It's good for medicinal plants. It generates economic income for people in the industries like the craft, the furniture. So it is, and its role in climate change as well. You know, through the process of photosynthesis, you have these plants taking in carbon dioxide and they give out oxygen. So it's, for all those reasons, the forest reserves is very fundamental.
That forest need to be protected. We have wildlife. My children, we love to come, our grandchildren, we like to come back to see what is a monkey, what is bugs, what is armadillo, or possum.
For more than 21 years, I've hiked tourists into this beautiful forest here. Very important for me as a way of making a living. But I think too that our central forest is very important to the people of St. Kitts, because it will be a way of protecting our water sources, tempering our climate, You know, it's so important not only for my livelihood, but for our sustainability as we go forward as a nation and as a people, that we protect this Central Forest Reserve.
Mangroves are important in terms of they play an important ecosystem function for the marine environment. For instance, the mangroves protect